Alright, 7th grade. Welcome to multiplying and dividing integers. I've been getting a lot of feedback, maybe some complaints about the bad math jokes. So I thought maybe I'll try some chemistry jokes next time, hoping to get a better reaction. See what I did there? Alright, let's get started. So to help us think about the rule for multiplying and dividing integers and what's actually happening, let's do some modeling. No, I'm not talking about like walk down the runway, show off some clothes. I'm talking about let's draw some models. Okay, now if you don't remember, when we have a dot like this, it usually means multiplication. So this problem is saying 3 times negative 4, and then we're also going to show negative 3 times negative 4. Yours should say negative 3 times negative 4. If it doesn't, fix it now. Okay, now I want you to remember that this is, we can think about multiplication as talking about groups of. So what this problem is telling us is that we've got 3 groups of negative 4. One way that I can model this is showing 3 groups of 4 negatives. I'm just going to draw negative symbols in there for my 4 negatives because I don't have my colored pencils handy. If I've got 3 groups of negative 4, it makes sense that I've got 12 total, but they're not positives, they're negatives, so it's negative 12. You could also think about this problem on the number line. It's like we're saying, I want to make 3 jumps. Each one of them is negative 4. And that's because we could rewrite this as negative 4 added together 3 times. So 3 jumps, each one of them is negative 4. If I'm at 0, if I'm adding a negative, I have to go to the left. So I'm going to make 1 jump of negative 4. So I'm at negative 4 here. Here's a second jump of negative 4. Which means I'm at negative 8. And here's one more jump of negative 4, which means I'm at negative 12. So no matter how we look at it, we're going to get negative 12. Okay, let's look at the next problem. I'm going to use an orange pen this time. Negative 3 times negative 4. If I'm thinking about modeling this, I can still think about this as saying I've got 3 groups, but the negative outside is like saying I've got the opposite of 3 groups. I know that's a little bit weird, but how that works out, it's like we're saying, okay, I've got 3 groups, and in each group there's negative 4. So here's my 4 negatives. But it's like opposite day. We're doing the opposite of 3 groups. So each one of these negatives is now turning into the opposite sign. So it's a positive, which means we've got 12. On the number line, it's like we're saying, okay, we need to make 3 jumps of negative 4, but just kidding, we're going to go in the opposite direction. So we need to do the opposite of 3 jumps of negative 4, which would be 3 jumps in the positive direction, which gets you, of course, to 12. Okay, now that might help you some. Here's another way to think about what's happening when you're multiplying integers. Let's look over at this pattern. Another way of showing multiplication, by the way, is parentheses. When you have a number next to the parentheses, it is always... So this problem, 3 times negative 4, well, we just did that. We know that 3 groups of negative 4 is negative 12. So now if we imagine 2 groups of negative 4, well, that's like saying negative 4 plus negative 4, or 2 groups of negative 4, 2 circles with negative 4 in it. However you want to think about it, that's negative 8. One group of negative 4, well, 1 times anything is just negative 4. One group of negative 4 is just negative 4. And you might notice a pattern here already. What's happening each time? 0 times negative 4 is 0. That pattern is still happening. Each time we are increasing by 4. And that kind of makes sense because we've got one less negative. If you have one less negative 4, then that means you're going to have more. Get rid of one of those negative 4s. So what would be reasonable? If each time we're increasing by 4, it makes sense that we go negative 12, negative 8, negative 4, 0, 4, then 8 each time we are increasing by 4. Okay, so what's the rule? How do we do this without having to draw models or thinking about a pattern each time? Well, when we multiply integers with the same sign, looking back at the integers like negative 2 and negative 4, we ended up getting a positive number. So the product is going to be positive. When we've got the same sign, multiply them together, whether it's two positive numbers we're multiplying or two negative numbers, we're going to have a positive product. When we multiply integers with different signs, like 3 times negative 4 or 2 times negative 4, the product will be negative. Now, if you're like me, you're probably thinking, hey, what about division? This is multiplying and dividing integers. I'm so glad you're thinking that. Let's think about it a little deeper. Well, if we're trying to divide, it's helpful to think about division as related to multiplication. We can always check whatever our answer is to a division problem by multiplying by the divisor, and we should get back to the dividend. So for example, whatever this is, this quotient, I don't know, maybe you have an idea, whatever it is, if we multiply it by 5, we should get back to negative 10. So think, what number can we multiply by 5 to get negative 10? Well, I know 2 times 5 is 10, and in order for us to have a negative, the 2 has to be negative, because they have to have different signs in order to have a negative product. So that means negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. The same thing works for the same sign. If I'm trying to figure out this quotient, I'm asking myself, well, what number can I multiply by negative 4 to get negative 20? And you could think about that as like, how many groups of negative 4 go into negative 20? That's what division is really asking you. But let's see, 4 times 5 is how we get to 20. And this is a negative product, and so that means I need to have different signs. Since this is already a negative, that has to be a positive. So negative 20 divided by negative 4 is positive 5. So look, when we have a division problem where the signs are the same, the product is, or the quotient is positive. When we have a division problem with the signs are different, the quotient is negative. Okay, before we do some examples together, I want to show you something super cute, because I know that's what you want to see right now. This super cute dog we're going to draw is going to actually help you some, just to remember what to do with the sign. So draw this with me. I want you to draw a triangle upside down. That's the dog's head. Give the dog some ears, hang them by the side, and put multiplication and division on those ears, because that's what kind of dog this is. And then the dog, of course, is going to have 2 eyes and a little snout. See the dog? Okay, here's how this works. When you're multiplying or dividing integers, cover up the signs of what you're multiplying or dividing, and the sign that's left is going to be what your product is. So if I am multiplying a negative and a positive, I'm going to cover these up. Negative and a positive cover up, and the sign that I have left is a negative. If I'm dividing two negatives, cover these up, and the sign that I have left is a positive. Let's see how that can help. So 2 times negative 6. I've got different signs, so that means I'm going to have a negative. Remember, cover this up, it's going to be a negative. So that means my product is negative, and 2 times 6 is 12. Negative 10 times negative 4. Well, they have the same sign. When I cover up those two negatives, I get a positive. 10 times negative 4 is 40. Negative 24 times negative 6. Well, they have the same sign. Cover that up, and it's a positive. And now I'm doing division, so 24 divided by 6 is 4. Okay, this one looks a little bit weird. But now if I just think about it and remember that a fraction is just another way of showing division, this is really saying negative 50 divided by 25. And since they have different signs means I have a negative quotient. And 50 divided by 25 is 2. 2 quarters fit into 50 cents, so that is negative 2. And then this last one looks a little bit different. So you need to remember from last year that this number here doesn't mean times 4. It means negative 3 to the 4th power, aka negative 3 multiplied by itself 4 times. So I'm going to multiply negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. This works out to be, well, let's see. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. And times negative 3 times negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 9, times negative 3. Well, they have different signs, so that's going to be a negative. And 3 times 9 is 27, so negative 27. Okay, and then negative 27 times negative 3, well, they have the same sign, so that's going to be a positive number. And 3 times 27, do some side work if you need to, but I remember that 3 times 7 is 81. 27, is 81. So negative 3 to the 4th power is 81. Okay, flip to the next side, and it's time for you to check your understanding. Pause the video, work these problems out, use the puppy dog maybe if it helps you, and then follow along with me to check your answers if you need to. Okay, here we go. Number 1, I've got different signs. So when I have two different signs and I am multiplying, I'm going to have a negative. 2 times 7 is 14, so it's negative 14. Okay, number 2, negative 6 times negative 8. I have the same sign. When I have the same sign and I'm multiplying, I'm going to get a positive, and 6 times 8 is 48. Positive 48. Okay, number 3, well, I got 3 numbers I need to multiply. I'm going to take it step by step. So 6 times negative 2, well, they have different signs, so that's going to be a negative. Negative 12. Bring that negative 3 down. And then this, because they have the same sign, well, that's going to be a positive. So negative 12 times negative 3 is a positive number. It's 36. Okay, let's keep going. Negative 48 over negative 6. Remember that the fraction is another way of showing division. This is negative 48 divided by negative 6. They have the same sign, so that means they're going to be positive. And 48 divided by 6 is 8. Okay, negative 32 divided by 8. They have different signs, so it's going to be a negative. 32 divided by 8 is 4. That means it's negative 4. Negative 55 divided by negative 11. They have the same sign. So that means it's going to be positive. 55 divided by 11 is 5. Positive 5. Okay? And if you tackled this spicy challenge, good for you. This is saying, in here, negative 10 divided by negative 2, and then out here, we're saying opposite of that. So inside the parentheses first, negative 10 divided by negative 2, that's 5. It's a positive in here because both of those are negative. But then there's a negative outside. It's saying the opposite of 5, which is negative 5. So this whole thing is equal to negative 5. Okay, you're ready for practice. Nice work.